A bombshell report from the CDC has revealed that a staggering 120,000 American children died suddenly following the rollout of the mRNA COVID jabs. The disturbing news has been greeted with radio silence by the mainstream media, who apparently do not consider the deaths of more than 100,000 American children to be of any consequence at all. Meanwhile, the establishment media is consumed with Get Trump reporting and distracting the public with propaganda on the war in Ukraine and the so-called climate crisis. If the mainstream media isn't going to do its job, then we'll have to do it for them and red pill the masses in the process. Before we dive in, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and join the People's Voice Locals community for exclusive and uncensored news and views. The link is below this video. On December the 11th, 2020, the FDA granted the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine emergency use authorization, known as an EUA, for administration in individuals 16 years of age or older. On May the 10th, 2021, the FDA expanded the EUA for the use of the shots to include adolescents 12 through 15 years of age. And then on June the 17th, 2022, just over a year later, the FDA authorized emergency use of the mRNA COVID vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech to include use in children down to 6 months of age. Just over a year on, the bombshell report, which has just been published by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OEC, and subsequently suppressed by the mainstream media, revealed that nearly 500,000 children and young adults have now died since the injections were approved for use on most children. And here is the figure that the mainstream media are working overtime to hide from you. Over 118,000 of those deaths are suspected to be linked to the COVID vaccine side effects. Despite the staggering death toll revealed in the report, it's been met with deafening silence from the mainstream media. We shouldn't be surprised. The report exposes the globalist elite and their propagandists in the mainstream media as the frauds and liars that they are. All through 2021, Democrat President Joe Biden's administration and then Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci continued to insist that the COVID jabs were safe and effective for all ages. According to Fauci, vaccines were necessary for protecting kids from the virus, despite children only showing mild symptoms, if any at all. We have compiled a rogues gallery of crooks who lie to our faces about the vaccines. All of these people have the blood of hundreds of thousands of American children on their hands.
Not just protecting themselves, but reducing their transmission to other people and allowing society to get back to normal.
We can kind of almost see the end. We're vaccinating so very fast. Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick.
Getting vaccinated and getting a booster shot when eligible can save your life and protect you and your family and friends from getting seriously ill and spreading infection.
What do you think the probability is? 80%?
Personally, I think it's 100%. I think that there's a reduction in transmission.
Right. COVID, if you have these vaccinations.
We have all the vaccines we need. We just need our people to take it. A, for their own protection, for the protection of their family, but also to break the chain of transmission. You want to be a dead end to the virus. So when the virus gets to you, you stop it. You don't allow it to use you as the stepping stone to the next person.
Now we know that the vaccines work well enough that the virus stops with every vaccinated person. A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus does not infect them, the virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else. It cannot use a vaccinated person as a host to go get more people. That means the vaccines will get us to the end of this.
But when we looked at the emergency use authorization, which is right on the screen, if you look what it says under transmission, this is what was known the moment they were making those statements. Can I have the next slide, please? What was known was that the data are not there, limited to assess the effects of the vaccine against transmission of SARS-CoV-2. They had no idea. They had no idea if it would stop the infection, yet they were making those statements on the news.
Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market? If not, please say it clearly. If yes, are you willing to share the data with this committee? And I really want a straight answer, yes or no, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Regarding the question around, did we know about stopping immunisation before it entered the market? No.
Shameful. Turns out they were all telling barefaced lies to the public. But it gets even worse. Despite the mountain of evidence proving the globalists were lying to us about the COVID pandemic and their experimental jabs, some people continue to believe the lies. After this quick break, we'll provide the hard data that proves without a doubt that the huge spike in excess deaths is attributable to the vaccines and not the virus itself. But first, an important word from our sponsor. A shocking new study reveals that power grid loss and blackouts could send half of America to the emergency room this summer. The study states that over tens of thousands of deaths and millions of hospitalizations would occur in the event of an extended power failure. This is why I highly recommend ordering Dark Age Defense before these blackouts strike. Dark Age Defense is the only comprehensive step-by-step guide on how to survive and thrive in a nationwide, extended and life-threatening blackout. Click the link below this video today to receive free shipping, a 100% money-back guarantee, plus several additional free bonuses. Order now by clicking the link down below, and be sure to watch the free video. Some people are so brainwashed by the establishment narrative that no matter how much evidence you provide them, they will never change their mind about anything. These stubborn people will go to their graves saying that the excess deaths, which just so happen to coincide with the vaccine rollout, aren't caused by the vaccine rollout at all. In the face of all evidence, these people continue to claim that the huge number of sudden deaths in young people are a coincidence, or some kind of delayed response to the COVID-19 disease itself. But this is a losing argument, and we can dismiss it right now by showing you official data published by the UK government. One of the pieces of evidence is a report published on the 6th of July 2022 by the UK's Office for National Statistics, which is a UK government agency. The dataset from the ONS is titled Deaths by Vaccination Status England, 1st of April 2021 to 31st of December 2022. These official UK government figures show that the overwhelming majority of people who died from COVID had received 3 or more doses of mRNA vaccines. The UK government very quietly released the official figures for COVID deaths in 2022, and the data reveals that the triple vaccinated population accounted for a staggering 92% of COVID-19 deaths throughout 2022. These figures are damning, and when laid out in graph form, the globalist lies about vaccine efficiency become impossible to defend, which is probably why the mainstream media did everything it could to suppress this news too. But the figures speak for themselves. The hard data shows that 9 in every 10 COVID deaths in England over the past 2 years had received 3 or more of the shots. Case closed. The more COVID shots you receive, the more likely you are to die of COVID. And the big pharma companies who produce the experimental jabs are continuing to duck and weave and refuse to cough up a single cent for victims of their disastrous vaccines. Watch Senator Rennick in the Australian Senate grill a Moderna spokesperson about what percentage of profits is allocated by Moderna for the legions of people who've been injured by the vaccine.
Percentage of profits does Moderna plough back into helping people who are injured by the vaccine?
Thank you. I was going to say we are aware that there is sort of an indemnity for COVID-19 suppliers, but indemnities are a policy matter for government to decide. I can't comment.
So Moderna doesn't put any of its profits back into helping the victims of injuries from the Moderna vaccine, is that correct?
So Moderna is a company that's focused on manufacturing vaccines. The matter of indemnity for vaccine suppliers is a matter for government.
So you're not prepared to underwrite the risk of your own vaccine. You're not prepared to actually put money where your mouth is when it comes to the safety of your vaccine. Is that correct?
So just before you answer this question, Senator Rennick, I'll have to go to Senator Antic after this answer is given.
That's the last question there.
Back to you.
Just yes or no, you're not prepared to underwrite the safety of your own vaccine?
We take safety of our vaccines very seriously. We have a very good pharmacovigilance process in place, in fact, a comprehensive one. However, I would only reiterate that indemnities are a matter for policymakers.
But what about a moral, social conscience of putting some of your profits back into helping victims of the vaccine? Zero? Is it $0?
I might just before you, again, Dr. Leong, just before you answer that, I appreciate.
Well, it's just that she's not answering.
No, I respect you asking the questions. I just want to make sure we can get to Senator Antic and keep to our timetable. But
I'll just take that as a zero. Thank you.
Everyone who promoted the jabs must be charged with crimes against humanity. That includes all of the talking heads in media who did the dirty work of the elite and convinced the masses to take the jab. They have the blood of millions of people across the world on their hands, including millions of children. This slaughter of the innocents is a historical low, and we must keep working to expose the criminals until they are held to account. Here at The People's Voice, we are determined to continue exposing the crimes of the elites, but we need your help. Spread this video far and wide to educate as many people as possible about what's really happening in the world today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and join the People's Voice Locals community for exclusive content and to support the channel. I hope to see you there.